links fit. I'm gonna do more like you can see the PowerPoint, and I'm gonna do more like the why Google Glass, why wearables, and the philosophy of Glass.
Okay.
And then I'll just ask a question pretty much.
Yeah, so about the question, we were kind of wondering about that. Are they going to be asking us questions, or do we do like our introduction and then like what we're doing with Glass and like basically our presentation, and then we ask them a question?
I think they want us to leave them with a question that they might answer there or later, but I'd like to ask Alexander about that more also, but I think he's not there right now.
Okay.
Yeah, because we kind of have a couple of generic questions, and I know David's going to come up with one as well. So
I just want you guys to know that it did change to live right now.
Oh.
Ooh.
I'm going to mute.
So this is getting recorded.
Yeah.
Nice.
So we can basically talk.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, cool.
Microphone working? There's no audio. There's no audio.
Hi, Mark. This is Libby. I think most of us are muted right now, so that's probably why you're not hearing anything.
Thanks. That's great to know.
All right. See you in a bit.
Great.
Oh, and just a quick note, it does say live, so right now it is recording.
Great, that's good to know. Be careful.
All right, good evening, everybody. Again, this is just the first call to assembly. Yes, so if you're in any of the studio rooms or upstairs or in the teal room, please come out and congregate here into the flexi space. I'd like to welcome you all here to Inspire Centre at the University of Canberra for the first of our Google meetups. And we're here tonight to collaborate, interrogate, and investigate, and all those wonderful active words around this technology, wearable technology, and what that means for us in education, in the medical sphere, and in many other professions too. So I hope you have an active and engaging night and participate and contribute your thoughts, positive, negative, neutral, to the event tonight. I'd just like to mention that the Twitter hashtag for this evening is UCGM1, so please post photos, comments, questions, answers up to there as a means to collaborate and track and trace each other and to network as you see fit. Just two housekeeping things. Firstly, the bathrooms at the Inspire Centre are located to my right and down around the corner here. And please either remove or turn off any wearable devices before you go in. Secondly, on a more serious note, in case of an emergency, there's an emergency exit to my right, also past the toilets, and straight out the front doors where you came. Our emergency evacuation point for Inspire Building is over to the right-hand side, here on my right-hand side, on the grass between us and the student residencies building. Having said that, I'd like to introduce Professor Robert Fitzgerald, who's the Director of the Inspire Centre here, and also the Associate Dean of Innovation here at the University of Canberra to officially open the evening's proceedings. Thanks, Rob.
Thanks very much, Matt, and good evening and welcome to the Inspire Centre. As Matt said, I'm the Director of the Inspire Centre in the Faculty of Education, Science, Technology, Maths. Before we begin the proceedings, I'd like to acknowledge and pay respect to the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, the Gadigal people. It's upon their ancestral lands that the University of Canberra is built. As we share our knowledge and research practices today, we also pay respect to the knowledge and imagination embedded in Aboriginal ways of knowing. I'd also like to acknowledge and welcome other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here tonight. Well, welcome to Inspire, and welcome to, as Matt said, our first glass meetup. We'll be hosting a series of events around wearable computing and, in particular, glass. We've got a broad interest in digital eyewear or smart glass and the applications to education, health and training. I think tonight is an opportunity to learn a little bit more about that. Just very quickly, I want to introduce the Inspire team who've been centrally involved in the organisation of this event. Matt Bacon, you just met, Lee Yu, down the corner, and Alex Hayes, who's of this event, and it's through Alex's networks that I think this event has been a significant one already. We have about 120 people attending this event tonight. We've got a few people still coming, and we've probably got another connection to about 400 or 500 people. But a really diverse group of folk. We've got high school students from grammar tonight who've been doing some work with glass for a number of months, and they're really already been recognised as some of that work. We've got teachers, doctors, researchers, defence folk, and as I said, the high school students. This really is a diverse group, and we think from this diversity will be a very significant resource for going forward. I'm also pleased to announce through the Deputy Vice-Chancellor of Education, Nick Klomp, that we will be hosting a wearable symposium that Nick will be sponsoring. And again, I think that will be a significant event for the university and its community. So that's all from me. I want to hand over to Alex, and who will acknowledge some of the folk that have been centrally involved in this organisation and supporting this event tonight, and I'll be back later on this evening to close. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Let's go through a few notes here. Amazing amounts of paper for a digital occasion. And there we have it. As it says, please be aware, you are being recorded. When you entered this event, you was asked to sign a declaration indicating you give permission to be filmed, photographed, recorded and broadcast during and after this event. Not only by the cameras that are in the room, but cameras that are on people and cameras that people are wearing and taking photos of you and broadcasting and transmitting. We thank you for your acknowledgement of this requirement of your participation in this event. So, this classroom is now a year old. So what does this mean in an Australasian context? This event heralds in the next while to engage in a serious discussion. So we have to consider some of the implications in an educational context across many sectors, and more widely on what is perceived, what's actually going to be actual. For some people, the onset is quite frightening. Indeed, it raises a few questions across any number of professions and occupations as to what it will mean to be wearing a smart device on your head, in essence, a smartphone for your face. Others consider the whole notion of smart glasses as really nothing short of ridiculous. Irrespective, it appears that the classroom is here to stay. The revolution is deeply rooted. It's a two-decade-old long project, and it's being explained as useful. In essence, it's an evolution in communication. It is in all sectors, teaching from a different perspective, incorporating a networked, connected, first-person point of view. The future is not ugly, but it's definitely geeky. And perhaps those bulky, awkward prototypes are just like the brick phones that we started with when mobile phone technology was just a phone. Essentially, what you're looking at is potentially what could be. It's also conducting across the Glass Explorer community who are online. Thank you, Cecilia, and everyone that's attending right now. Across the United States and other environments, there is a range of reactions to this particular device worn in public places and spaces. Google Glass, digital glass, is currently up before the US Senate and the Australian Law Reform Commission as to the privacy and the security concerns that it raises, depending on time, location, and context. These interviews I've conducted reveal a range of responses, and for there's nothing more than scepticism abounds, yet it seems we're not ready to debunk something when little else compares to it for the moment. What's likely to happen, though, is that some things will never change, and there might not be any real or discernible infrastructural or social impact for quite some time to come. Yet I know the awareness is that the conversations are starting to pick up. For others, Google Glass and digital glass in general will fundamentally change people's lives and access to services and empower wearers where previous innovations failed to excite them. And it's very likely that this innovation will fundamentally shift the way in which we deal with the first-person responder, emergency services, medical intervention, community policing, and a string of other service points in our communities. Of course, the fun and engaging and social ways in which digital glass are apparent when you look at images that depict humans interacting in very cool activity. For others, it may well add a complexity to their otherwise hectic occupational tasking that borders on manic overload. And the real question is, will we cope? For some it is, can we ever go back? For many of us, there is no going back. We're engineers of our own accident, perhaps, and by these accidents we learn what not to do next time. It's either that, or we become what we most ardently worked against becoming. Anything in between will not do justice to those who came before us and those who have long gone. More importantly, though, we would not be enjoying the hospitality of this event, and I hope you'll go and get some drinks and something to eat, had it not been for the generosity and the foresight of instructors to sponsor this event. They stepped up to the plate and made us aware they were interested. As key sponsor for the event, can you please join me in welcoming Conrad Svenlove, Regional Director across Australia and New Zealand. Thank you.
Thank you. Who are we? That's us, not you. Wasn't a philosophical question. Instructure is the company that created and creates Canvas. Canvas is a modern learning management system, and it's just recently entered the Australian market. Canvas is used by more than 12 million students and teachers from 700 institutions across the world, including 75% of the United States and elite UK institutions such as the University of Birmingham. Why, then, are we sponsoring this event? From its start, the Instructure co-founders set out to build an open LMS, one that would work with the best innovation and wherever it comes from. Today, there are more than 130 applications that work on the Canvas platform. We think wearable technology has the power to increase the mobility of internet-based tools. And this is significant because it could introduce a new potential for education and for learning in the real world. In the context of education, it isn't difficult to imagine students using wearables to capture practical assignment work so that they can easily submit an iView audio-visual recording, either as a work submission or a question on technique back to the teacher through Canvas. Think, as we've already seen, surgery or microengineering. There's a whole heap of potential applications, which I'm sure you can think of before I do. We're delighted to be here sharing this event with all of you. So I don't want to talk anymore. I don't want to go any further into what we do. It's now time for me to welcome you as sponsor to this very significant event hosted by the innovators here at Canberra. Thank you.
Thanks, Colin. We're now going to welcome Cecilia Abadai and Noble Atkinson, members of the Google Glass Explorer community, founders of the LinksFit app, which you can get off the button, head up into the world with glass. Please welcome Cecilia and Noble. If we can get the screens to cut in twice. See if we can connect with Cecilia. Hi, Cecilia. Can you hear us there?
Hi, everybody. I can hear you well.
Excellent. Go ahead, Cecilia.
So, thank you for inviting me, Alexander, and everybody there. It's very nice to be here, even if it's a little late over here in the US. And unfortunately, Noble Atkinson, my co-founder, has not been able to make it with us. But I would like to share what we've done together. In the last year, we became Google Glass Explorers, and we built a platform for a personal trainer on Google Glass and using other wearable computing as well. And what I'd like to share is a little bit of the decisions. Why? Why wearables? Why are we going into Google Glass particularly? And a little bit of the philosophy of these devices. And this applies to every wearable device, actually. So the first thing is, why wearables? And we believe that wearables respond to a very natural tendency on human deep needs, which is the need to have technology closer so that it can satisfy whatever it is that we need at the moment we need. So in the beginning of time, we had to go for a watch. You had to go all the way to the downtown center to know what time it was, right? But that wasn't good. We had to build a watch in our homes. And from the watch in our homes, we wanted to go to the watch in every wrist and in every pocket. And that's the same path that every technology is kind of following. So the same process we'll see over and over with other technologies like computers in this case. And that's the origin of wearable computing. But also we have to wonder why Google Glass is our main platform for LinksFit. And the reason is because we've been trying to do wearables for a long, long time. We started with Steve Mann, and we have the Ted Turners, and we have all these people that have been trying to do wearables in very interesting ways. But the reality of it is that this kind of wearable technology until Google Glass and before Google Glass wasn't really wearable. So all the wearable technology that we have until today had a big problem. It wasn't realistically truly wearable. And Google Glass is the very first device that has this capacity to be you can wear it all day long. It's comfortable, it's useful, it's simple enough, it's light. So it has all these characteristics that made it, we believe, the first wearable device that you can develop software for as a platform. And that's what we're doing. Regarding the philosophy of a device like this, the philosophy is to first of all to be immersive. And you know how all of us are like looking down on our cell phones all day long, and you see all the kids, but also us older people, that we are kind of embedded into our devices and we get captured by them. Well, the idea of wearable technology is to free us from the technology that was getting us captive and getting us back into the world where we can, you know, be immersed in whatever we're doing, if we're out in nature, if we're out with friends. The next thing about the philosophy of wearables is that wearables are going to be designed for micro interactions. And what does it mean? It means that when you interact with a wearable device, you will have a quick thing that you will accomplish really quick, and you're going to be done until you need the next thing. So you're going to do a quick Google search or a quick call to a friend, or you're going to reply to a text message with your voice. All of these done really quick, in and out. And that's the concept of micro interactions. The next thing that we're going to see with wearables as far as philosophy is that wearables are becoming a very personal technology. So the relationship between the computer, in this case, and the person is completely intimate relationship. So that's the reason why we're building a personal trainer, for instance, at LinksFit. So LinksFit is a personal trainer. The personal trainer is just talking to you, is showing you how to do things, is tracking as you move to know what you're doing and how you're doing your workouts in this case. And we believe wearables are all about personal interaction. It's all about you. And when artificial intelligence evolves, there's going to be more and more interesting personal interactions. So in the future, your interaction with your computers, it will be very similar to your interaction with your friends, maybe. Okay? And then to further that point, the fifth element of philosophy of wearables that I would like to mention is the element of voice and coming back to natural interfaces. All of us as kids were born by touching things, talking, and listening to things and persons, right? Well, this is the first time, and these are the first years that we're going to start talking to computers. And computers are going to talk back to us. So voice, particularly, and also touch is already a big part of our lives because we all have cell phones that are touch screens, and also tablets and phablets. So touch is already a big part of our lives again when it comes to technology. But obviously, none of us were born, or let's say most of us were not born with keyboards, right? Keyboard is an artificial kind of interface that we started having because we needed to communicate with a very primitive computer. But in the future, voice is going to be a much more relevant interface. And it's a natural interface. So I'm speaking to my computer like I'm speaking to my friends. Okay? And once you use a device that you can talk to, like in the case of Google Glass, after wearing Google Glass for a few months, what happened to me is one day I was in a meeting and I had this revelation. I realized that, okay, this question that people are asking me, my database knows, and I could ask my Google Glass, how much sales did we have in Canada last year, for instance? Okay, so it becomes so natural. I have a friend that has been also wearing Google Glass for a long time, And he says that when he gets into his car, he wants to say, okay, car, turn on. Okay, car, do this, you know. Okay, door, open. So it really, imagine when millions of users start to have smart watches and smart glasses, and they're talking to them. Well, imagine the effect that it's going to have on them. Everybody will want to talk to their hardware and software. So if you are a user, you will demand that. If you're a software developer or a hardware developer, you'll have to provide that because your users will require voice and other natural interfaces. So, and we are already seeing the market going in that direction. For instance, Amazon already got out 2 products, the Amazon TV Fire thing and also their shopping hardware. And both of those, you just talk to them, which to me, it makes a lot of sense, so it was really no surprise. The next thing that I wanted to mention to you guys is that not only we're going to see wearables, but there's a new thing out there that is called hearables. And hearables are going to be like little devices that they go inserted like earbuds, but these earbuds are going to have also, like the smart watches, they're going to have health properties. They're going to be able to maybe measure your temperature, maybe know your pulse, maybe talk to you. And I don't know how many of you have watched the movie Her. I don't know if the movie Her is very famous in Australia and how many of you watched it. But this is an amazing movie where a person, and I don't want to spoil it for you, is talking to their operating system. And it develops a very personal relationship with their operating system. And obviously, this is science fiction at this point, but it's a very reasonable science fiction looking at where we are out right now. So that's a little bit of the philosophy of wearables. The next thing that I would like to share with you is my personal experience of being a glass explorer for the last year and also using other devices like smart watches and fitness bands, and etc. The first side of that is as a user. So as a user, the opportunity to wear this Google Glass very early on, it kind of gave me an idea of how the future will look in all these senses that I was talking. So as a user, it was very interesting to play with a technology that is a little innovative. Then as a software developer, it was a lot of fun because when you develop application for glass, you see the screen come up, you make it talk, you make it do things. It's really very, very engaging. There was another thing that was very interesting about adopting a very early wave of new technology, that was to be part of a community of people that are very innovative and they're very early adopters. And that was a lot of fun. So the Google Plus community, and I actually invite all of you to join us at Google Plus, the conversations are amazing and everybody's very welcomed. So that was a side effect of wearing Google Glass. The next thing was to be a cyborg and come out to the streets wearing this very strange new thing that nobody knows what it is. It was a very incredible experience. So people will look at you, people will stop you and ask you questions. People might be a little afraid of you, like, are you recording me? And get stressed out, thinking that you're recording them. So it's a broad side of experiences out there. And one of those experiences particularly was that I was driving with Google Glass. And I understand that some of you, if you never heard or know a lot about Google Glass, might think that that was a very responsible thing to do, to be driving with Google Glass. And you can think, oh my gosh, you're watching a movie while you're driving. But really, like I explained before, this technology is designed to be out of your way. And it's off, basically, until you really need it. And it actually is designed for you to glance at it. So it has very amazing GPS and navigation directions. And one day, driving with Google Glass, I was stopped by a cop, and he basically gave me a ticket for wearing Google Glass. Although I told him I wasn't actively using it, I was just wearing it. So this kind of gave me another angle as a person living this experience with Google Glass, it kind of made me a public person, and I kind of appeared in all the newspapers, my friends all around the world telling me, hey, you are in the cover of this paper and you're in the cover of this other web page. And so that was a very unexpected result of being an early adopter of a very, very innovative new technology. And that's pretty much all I wanted to share with you. And my experience, the philosophy. And I have a question. Alexander asked me to have a question ready for you guys to answer. And my question to you is, can we stop technological evolution? So let's say we don't like Google Glass. Let's say some of you out there kind of hate this technology for different reasons. What is the best thing to do? Can we stop technological evolution? Or are we better off actually influencing the way and ethics by which technology evolves? So that's the thought that I want to leave you with. Can we stop it, or are we better off influencing the evolution of technology? Thank you very much for your attention today. And now I'm going to actually introduce the next speakers. Alexander, do you want to do that, or you want me to do that?
Thanks very much, Cecilia. That would be fantastic if you could introduce your colleagues who, I understand, Cecilia, we also have David Lee, we have Brandon King, and Libby Chang from Wearables Weekly, which is part of the Society of Glass Explorers. Thank you very much, Cecilia. Please thank Cecilia for her Libby, if you'd like to introduce your colleagues, that would be great.
So we're going to leave you with Libby Chang, who is Libby, and Brandon King will follow her, and we have also David Lee, like Alexander said. So Libby, the floor is yours.
Hi everyone, my name is Libby Chang, and we're actually going to change it up a little bit. Brandon is actually going to go first before I do. Brandon is right now in Ohio, so it's very late for him.
Hi, I'm Brandon. I'm from Ohio, USA, as Libby just mentioned. I work in IT consulting and have been working with a lot of companies and communities and finding ways to use glass to help their communications as well as an educational tool. So when I first found out about glass, when they announced it, I was really excited, because in information technology, you know, I'm constantly trying to find ways to make things faster, ways to make businesses run smoother using technology. And this was the perfect opportunity to get involved as quickly as possible. And once I got my hands on glass, we started really thinking about how it can be used. We started off just thinking with communication, the video chat, phone calls, and wanted to build up from there. So what we went with was starting with training. Using the video capabilities, we were able to work with internally with servers and whole network systems and record a whole setup, and then use that for documentation for reference later from someone else. Or we could go through an entire configuration while video chatting with one of our interns or something, where they could see firsthand what's going on and how things need to be done without having to be there or having to take the time out to travel across the state to work on something. Especially since many of them were in the process of doing classes, while interning with us. So after we got that, kind of working internally, we wanted to see how we could fit it into other places. And with a lot of our clients, they range from field to field, from medical to manufacturing to law enforcement, and everything in between. So we wanted to meet with them and see what they thought, and see how they thought they could use it effectively to improve their business and use it as from a training to work on the production floor. And it was really interesting. There has been an overwhelmingly positive reaction to adopting glass, both on a personal and enterprise level. Some of our clients are in education, and they love the idea of using it in the classrooms as well. So we started working with a few clients, going from how they can share information between each other to training. And some of the things that we came up with were on a manufacturing floor, for example. Someone on a whole other side of a big plant would be able to update what's going on in the facility, and the plant manager from across the facility knew exactly what was going on. Real time, just quick, instant communication. And as Cecilia mentioned, it's really out of the way. It's not distracting, and glass is really designed for these little bits of information, this little bit of helpfulness. And it was nice to see how they were able to do that. We also ended up having many of our clients going with the whole using the first-person hands-free video for documentation, and using it to create training videos, and using things to just help their employees get better and share their skill sets with one another. And over the past year, it's grown immensely in how much these people are enthusiastic about glass. And yeah, that's pretty much what we've been using it for. Trying to get people looking at it from that perspective and seeing how they can integrate it. So what I want to ask you guys is, in what you are studying and what you work in, how do you think that glass and other like heads-up display technology will be able to make a profound impact in your field? In what way do you think that it can make a big impact, and where would it make the biggest impact? So that's what I want you guys to think about. And I'm actually going to hand this over to Libby Cheng, who lives in San Francisco.
Yes, well, I'm in Sunnyvale, which is just south of San Francisco, but it's the San Francisco Bay Area, so close enough. So hi, everybody. My name is Libby Cheng. I am on a weekly podcast called Wearables Weekly, along with Cecilia Beatty, who spoke earlier today. I also, for my day job, I work as an environmental health and safety officer at San Francisco State University. And I kind of got into glass. So my husband is a developer, and he was able to sign on to the program, the Explorer program, back in 2012 during Google I/O. And pretty much when he had his glass, I stole it from him a lot, and I wouldn't give it back to him. So there became a need for 2 glass units in the household very quickly. What really attracted me to glass, though, was not only the hands-free aspect, but essentially having glass really allows you to be in the moment in various circumstances. So if you're hiking somewhere and you see some really cool wildlife or really cool plant life, you don't have to fumble around for your phone. You don't have to look down. The moment's not gone. You can capture that while you're in that moment, and that just that simple little function became just completely it was invaluable to me. I found myself taking a lot more pictures. I found myself interacting a lot more, and that was so. My interaction also came kind of as a secondary action. We do have a very like Cecilia mentioned earlier, we have an incredibly robust Glass Explorer community that's not just in the United States, it's actually global. And I've been able to meet some incredible people and hear some incredible stories from other Glass Explorers. And like Cecilia said, this Explorer community isn't necessarily just for people who have Glass. It's actually open to anybody who's interested in Glass. And so I would strongly encourage everybody to join. So got a little off subject. So my story of using Glass is actually a little different than most people on the panel today. I actually don't use Glass. I don't wear Glass 24/7. I don't wear Glass at work, mainly because I work at a university. And Alexander and I were kind of talking about it a few days ago. And so the reason I don't wear Glass at university is because right now it's something that's very new, and students are naturally curious. So a lot of times when I'm out, because there aren't a lot of units in the wild, quote unquote, a lot of people approach you to try it on, which is fine typically. But when I'm working, I would never get any work done. So in a sense, it's almost because of it's a social reason why I don't wear Glass at my job. At this point, I wouldn't say Glass is 100% socially acceptable. There are still times where you kind of have to be discreet when you use it. It's not always appropriate to be using Glass, but the beauty of wearables is it's something that you can completely personalize to yourself. So in situations like this, even though this is a device that I don't wear 100% of the time, I don't think I'm doing the device injustice. So that is something to also think about heading into the wearable, heading into this new world of wearables and things that are constantly monitoring you. You can always take them off. It's not something that is necessarily attached to you. It's not something that's under your skin. That's a completely different discussion. But I'm going to leave some time for David to discuss his aspect of a Google Glass. But my question to the audience is, so right now, again, Glass is very, very new. It's a very different technology. It's in your face. People see it. So where do you think the strongest barrier is to the heads-up display being adopted in the Australian and Asian market? And so with that, I'm going to introduce David Lee, who is a Glass Explorer from San Francisco. He is the founder of GPOP. And he has allowed us to personalize our Glass, which has been fantastic. So,
hey, hi, how are you guys? So my name is David. I am also from San Francisco, and I've had Google Glass for almost about a year now. So I guess one interesting topic that I can bring it to this table is that I'm actually full-time the Google Glass entrepreneur. I quit my full-time job around June last year, whenever I got my Google Glass. Probably the reason why I quit my job was I just believed in technology like a Google Glass, and I thought I wanted to jump ahead of everybody else, and have something there when the Google Glass gets released in the public, that I'll have an opportunity to lead a crowd. Today I mainly wanted to talk about a couple of things. The first thing is how I actually use Google Glass, how I use it in every day in my life. The second thing I want to talk about right now is kind of my business is and what we're doing and how Google Glass is affecting my business right now. So the first thing, so who am I? I'm a Google Glass startup founder. So we do a couple things. So the name is GPOP, like what you see in the background. So first thing that we started doing is we actually made a Google Glass skin so that you can kind of personalize the way it looks. So as you see Google Glass right now, so what you see here, I have like a little bit of different design here, right? And then some people has like carbon fiber type of texture. Somebody has very shiny silver. So we give people an opportunity so they can kind of like personalize according to like their taste. And the reason why I actually kind of like started this company is because a lot of people could not really match their Google Glass with their everyday style. Once you pick like sky blue Google Glass or tangerine Google Glass, you're kind of like stuck to that one color. So if you want to go out there in the public and match the different stuff, then there was no like no way to do it. So we started providing different color and a different design, so you can kind of like fashionize your Google Glass contextual to where you're going. So that's how we started, and right now we are also developing applications for our clients as well. So first, excuse me, how I use Google Glass in everyday life. I use it in contextual computing, meaning that I'll give you a quick example. One time I was putting an air in my tire in a gas station. So I was putting an air in my tire. So in the US, you have to put a couple of coins to get the air going. And I actually didn't know how much air actually I need to put in my tire. So all I did was, okay, Glass, how much air do I need to put in my tire while I was putting air in my tire and while I was working? And it just told me that you need to put this much air. So I did it, and I kind of like left it. If it wasn't for Google Glass, I would have actually stepped aside, pull out my cell phone, and type in all that, and I try to look for it. And by the time I come back, I have to put another coin in there to get it started, right? So there are a lot of just small contextual situations where Google Glass actually has a huge advantage of cell phone. I cannot really pinpoint this is it and that is that, but this small things just like comes and goes. So and I use GPS a lot. Cecilia mentioned that you're not supposed to drive with the Google Glass on, but I mean I think the GPS is a very useful tool. And thirdly, I use it a lot to listen to music. It's very simple as, okay, Glass, listen to the playlist name that I made. So like such as, okay, Glass, listen to workout, and it'll just play workout music. What if I just say, okay, Glass, listen to happy, then it'll just play happy music. Like this actually is much easier to control your music library than your cell phone. So that's how I actually use Google Glass. So with the given time, just shortly, let me just discuss what are some of the projects that I've been working on. So that at the end of this conversation, you guys can see how Google Glass can contextually fit into this enterprise or the consumer industry. So we've actually worked on 3 different applications. So we're working on our 3rd right now. So first app was called Fashion Discovery Lab. So what it does is it takes a picture of your clothing and it tells you where you can actually buy it from. It solves it provides a need for those who actually works like a busy downtown area, and you want to buy, you see a clothing that you actually really like, but you didn't have time to go stop somebody and ask like where'd you buy it. So simply what you can do is okay, Glass, where do I get it? And just take a picture and it just tells you where you get it from. Second app that we're working on there, actually we're releasing it tomorrow. It's a sign language app. We basically delivers sign language I guess the signs to your Glass one a day, so you can actually learn it from. The reason why I think it's very effective compared to like on other devices is because it's very personal. Like so you have a video right in front of you. The person is actually teaching you how to do sign, like I love you, right? And once you see it, I think it's much easier to kind of like easier for you to memorize that type of interaction more so than like looking at your cell phone or looking at your like computer screen. The third application that we're working on right now is the travel app. So and the Google already kind of has some similar travel app. But what we're thinking that we'd like to build right now is like a one-on-one travel app, so that Google Glass is more of your tour guide. So we'll ask you things like, how are you doing? Where would you like to go today? If you go here, then you'll see this. If you go, you'll see that. So it checks your time and schedule and things like that. And we believe it's way more effective than your cell phone because, again, it's right by your ear and your eyes, so it can tell you where to go, and it gives you notification, and you won't be able to miss it. So those are actually different type of applications that we have built. And so right now, I feel like I'm back in 2007 when I used to build iPhone application. And around 2007 is when all this iPhone, there was a huge boom in iPhone application industry. Right now, I see people requesting for different type of Google Glass application, and there's a huge need for like developers and designers who can actually handle this. So I see this industry is growing quite a bit. So to end this conversation, I actually like to leave a question for you guys is, how does the fashionable aspect of a Google Glass will impact the user acquiring a device like a Google Glass? So a lot of people believe that this is still like ahead of like a fashion curve, which we don't know if we can even reach there. So what do you guys think? What will people not wear this because of the fashion problem? So I just want to leave that question to you guys. Thank you.
Folks, we're going to take a break in a moment, but before I do, I wonder if you could join with me and thank all our speakers. It's midnight or 1 a.m. in the morning for them at the moment, and we really appreciate their time being up that late. We'd also like to thank the whole Glass community for their contributions. So I wonder if you could just join with me and thank them all. So there is an opportunity to get up and stretch your legs. We've got some food and beverages out there that will be coming out on the tables. Just before you do get up, we're going to be breaking up into 3 sessions. In this main room, we've got Professor Mark Billinghurst from Canberra University, who will be talking about the Glass developers. Across in Studio 1, we've got our health folk who are going to be looking at some of those applications. And then across in the till room, we've got our amazing kids from Grammar, who will be talking about some of the work they've been doing around the Glass project as well. So take about 10 minutes break. We'll have some, as I said, beverages coming out, but please get up and stretch.
But that's what I'm going to That's it.
We have on screen. What's that? No. That's right. Oh, you were just writing, but it was on screen. Yeah, that was Lee. Oh, Lee. Sorry, Lee. Yeah, so Lee has to stand still and yes, find the controls. They also part of the hat. On this screen. So while you're controlling it, it has to be on the screen. But you can actually control the desktop on the browser. So I do have class. But it always looks good. You can send around and people are talking more when you see. Now listen to you, Sam. I was serious about that. I put that report like. Yeah, guys. Around table, just get this thing space around the side. So people, they're seeing the whole area, so they can see where they're moving. So they're seeing, they're driving. Can you make yourself up as well? Oh, no, that. You've got to use that in your class. Oh, listen here, God. So it's with the in-lab, the Stockholm Music Institute. Yeah. I'm showing you around. Showing you this tech. What do we call this, by the way? This is UniLead. UniLead. Which is close. This is all around here. Here's what you do it. It's on the you, me, or me. But that's the software there. Yeah. What about this? This is it's sequence. Yeah. Storage space. Yes. So this is basically an iPad. It's been limited to backup all the way. Back to it's being camera pointed around the side. Students are in class, you guys can do their class. See, and you say, hey, well, you shot. Yes. So the build's probably more and the way that you fix it is We'll catch up in very shortly. But I'm not saying
But there are many equipment that's good. It sounds like help in that room.
Thank you.
I would like to be this afternoon drawing our own that just shows you how much we at the moment when I looked at
So we're just talking about recording because I'm not sure whether the one who are listening to my still recorded. Yeah. Yeah. Hi, welcome back.
Hello, nice to see you. Oh, it's really good, except for today my daughter fell sick, so I had to leave.
Oh, did you?
That's why I went down here early to help her.
Oh, no worries. No worries.
I got back in time.
Stuff?
How's it going?
Good.
Yeah.
On track, particularly time together.
Yeah, I just come and said that I've got to start flight.
Yes.
So it's way upstairs.
I'm going to go into the other room here and.
Sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay, the rubber will be out here. I'm just going to tell the next one. That's all in your honorary model, I'll do one.
Really going back to this.
Yes, from 8 o'clock.
Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, we're about to break up into the various sessions. Just a reminder, in the flexi space here, we've got the dance community with Mark Billinghurst. Across the material room, we've got the education group, Canberra Grammar, we've got there. Across the studio room, we've got the health and community team. So if you'd like to make your way into the various areas.
You right, Lewis?
Yes, yes. All right.
What do you want? Do you want to switch across to Mark or just see?
You can talk. It's already on. You can talk. It's already on. You're already on.
Is he on?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just going to see.
No, he's here. Here you go. He's coming. He's coming.
G'day, Mark. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Okay, so we've haven't met before. We've just got the final people moving into the various areas. So if you just give us about a minute or so, and we'll be ready to go.
No problem. I'm ready to start whenever you are.
Thanks. Can I get you a drink or you're right?
Oh, I'm good, thanks.
Hey, wait. So there is something here in the flexi space, right?
There is something the deaf community here.
Okay, the deaf community, right.
No. Yeah. Look the screen. Look the screen. The screen. The session is on the screen. Okay.
Okay, cool.
Okay, folks, so I wonder if you can take a seat, bring your drinks to the front if you can, and we'll get the final people to move into their respective areas. So it might be best to come forward. Okay. Thanks very much. It's my pleasure to introduce Professor Mark Billinghurst from Canberra University. Mark's going to around depth, and the work that Mark has been doing has been leading the area in terms of not just glass, but a whole range of wearable technologies. Mark's going to largely run this session and give us a chance to ask some questions, and we'll help field some of those questions as well. So the last few people will move out to the various areas. If you'd like to move yourself forward, I'm going to hand across to Mark. Mark, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you just fine. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Mark. I think we're good to go. So over to you. Mark, nice to meet you. We haven't met before. Rob Fitzgerald from the Inspire Centre. I know you've had a lot to do with Alex, who's been a significant driver of this event, and we look forward to an ongoing conversation with you. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you. It's wonderful to be here. I wish I could be there in person. So what I wanted to do for the next 15 or 20 minutes was to give an explanation of some of the research that we're doing at the Hit Lab New Zealand, at the University of Canterbury, especially in the areas using Google Glass. And then also take the time to answer any questions that you have. I think we have about 30 or 40 minutes or so to discuss until the event. So maybe just to get started, I should give a bit of background on myself. So as I said, I'm a professor at the University of Canterbury, and I direct the Hit Lab New Zealand, which is a research centre which does a range of different interactive technologies like augmented reality and virtual reality, human-robot interaction, visualization, and other areas as well. We've been doing work in that space for about 12 years, and then before that time I was doing research for another 8 or 10 years at the University of Washington. And I've been involved with oral computing since about 1995. So it's almost 20 years now, and also a similar length of time with augmented reality. It's a very exciting time to be involved in these areas because after seeing the technology being in the lab for a long time, now finally we're getting it out into the public domain. So, for example, people with cell phones can have augmented reality experience and the technology that's in their pocket. And now with technology such as Google Glass, we've gone from a wearable computer, which is not being on your back, to something that you can now wear on your face and it's very lightweight. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how we've been using the technology in our research. And so there are a couple of areas we do work in. First of all, I think many of you will be aware of the very big earthquake we had in Christchurch about 3 years ago. And this earthquake ended up demolishing about 70% of downtown Christchurch. So if you visit my hometown today and come into the downtown region, you'll see lots of empty parking lots and spaces where buildings used to be. So one of the first things we did with Google Glass was to build an application that allows us to be able to walk around the real world and see put back in place the buildings that used to be there. This was an application, first of all, we developed for handheld devices, so for iPhone and Android mobile phones. And this is called City View AR, and you can download it now from the Play Store. And if you download it and try, what you can do is when you walk around the city, you can see an augmented reality view of the environment around you. So we take the live camera view from the phone, and then we superimpose on top of that 3D graphics of buildings. And we also can use the technology to show immersive panoramas of what the city was like immediately after the earthquake, showing some of the devastation of the earthquake. So this was an application that we developed about 2 years ago. And since that time, we've had about 5,000 or 6,000 downloads, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's quite a lot, considering the application is targeted towards people who are in Christchurch with iPhone or Android devices. So about a year ago, once we had finished this application, we decided to port it over to Google Glass, because it provides a very different experience when you view it on Glass than when you view it with your mobile phone. So of course with your mobile phone, you'd be holding the phone in front of your face, and you'd be seeing the real world through the screen. Whereas with Glass, you can see the real world at all times through your Glass display, because it goes on your face in front of your eyes. So it turns out once you have an Android application that works on an Android phone, it's very, very easy to port it over to Glass. It took us about a week worth of effort to get the Android application working on the head-mount display. We just had to make a few simple changes, such as being able to use a touchpad input instead of touchscreen, to be able to use head gestures to be able to view the space rather than using the compass on the mobile phone, and so forth. And now with this application, you can look around and see for back in place buildings that used to be there before the earthquake, and also experiences immersive panoramas on the head-mount display. But it provides a much more compelling experience than when you get on the mobile phone, because now you're immersed inside the data set rather than just seeing it from outside. So that's one of the first applications we've done. While we were doing that, we discovered that it would be good to be able to explore a variety of different user input experiences for Glass. And in particular, using the touchpad or the speed bump on Glass can be quite limited. It can also be socially isolating. If you're standing in a public place and start talking to yourself or touching the side of your head, people kind of wonder what's going on. So over the last 7 months, we've been exploring other types of interactions. And in particular, one of the things we're using is using freehand gestures. So we developed software so you can put your hands in front of your face, and track the hands using the camera, and create a 3D model of the hand, and then use rich natural 3D gestures to interact with Glass. So using this, for example, you can reach out and you can grab a virtual object and manipulate with your free hand, or use both hands to stretch an object, or pointed objects and grab what they are. And so this provides a much more natural way to interact with Glass, especially when you start interacting with the objects in 3D space. However, there's still lots of other interactions, possibilities with Glass that need to be explored. And one of the other areas that we're working on, not on Glass right now, but on the desktop augmented reality, is by using speech and gesture together. So, for example, with our system, you can reach into space, you can grab 3D objects with your hands and move them around, but at the same time, you can also issue speech commands. So you can point at an object and say, "What is that?" Or you can point at another object and say, "Make that bigger," or change that color to red, and use a rich combination of speech and gesture together. And what we found is that speech by itself or gesture by itself are both quite limiting. So, for example, gesture is very good for rich 3D interaction, but it's not very good for doing things like specifying color or quantities. Whereas speech is specifying modal commands, menu commands, but it's not very good for specifying 3D objects, positions, or translation. So when you combine the two together and build a multimodal interface, you're able to have an interface that allows you to interact in the 3D world in a very different way, just the same way as you would face-to-face conversations with your person. I guess this gets a little bit to what Cecilia was talking before about how with Glass you're trying to build a system that supports very natural speech interaction, and with our system we can enhance gesture interaction as well. So those are two areas we're working in, augmented reality and then using gesture and then speech to interact with Glass. The third area that we're doing work in is with collaboration. And we haven't talked about that so much, very much today, but Google Glass provides a very different type of collaborative experience than what you can have with other types of desktop interfaces. So, for example, on the desktop, you might have a Skype call or maybe Google Hangout, and you'll typically see the head of the person you're talking to. So it's oftentimes still referred to as a talking heads collaboration. And it's supposed to simulate a face-to-face conversation. However, in the real world, there are many times where you might want somebody to help you with a real-world task. You know, for example, your car's broken down and you want to be able to help somebody to fix the engine. Or maybe you're trying to fix a piece of machinery that's broken, or paint the side of your house, or some other action in the real world. So, because the camera and glass is on your head, when you do a Google Hangout from Glass, now instead of seeing the face of the person you're talking to, you see the video of their environment, and so you can see the space they're in. So we're very interested in looking at how we can use Glass to support more task-based collaboration. So being able to share a video of what you're doing with somebody else, and then have the remote person annotate on the video, or be able to interact with you in some way. So that's what's currently available in Glass, but there are some limitations with that. So for example, if I'm sharing a video with a remote person, so maybe I'm at a rock concert and I'm sharing a hangout on Glass with somebody else, so they can basically see through my eyes and they can experience what I'm experiencing. But one of the limitations of the current interface is that they can only see where I'm looking. So it's literally like looking through somebody else's eyes. And so you lose a sense of space because you can just see what the person's seeing. So what would be much better would be if you were able to independently look around from the person that was wearing glass. And so one of the new projects we're doing is being able to use Google Glass to not only share a video of a remote environment, but also to be able to capture the environment and share it in a much more way. So the current application allows you to take glass and then pan your head around. As you're panning your head around, it will capture images from around you and stitch them together to make an immersive panorama. And then you can share that panorama with the remote person. So now instead of showing a live video view of just what you can see, you can share a full 360 panorama. And what we can also do with this, we can also, with our software, allow the remote person to annotate or to point at points of interest in the panorama. So maybe I'm at a museum and I'm surrounded by lots of beautiful artwork, and I've taken a panorama of what's around me so I can share the images of the artwork and what's there. And then the remote person can view that panorama either on the desktop or on their tablet, maybe on their own glass display. And they can independently look at the panorama separate from my point of view. What they can also do is they can then take their finger and then they can draw on their tablet screen or their mouse on the desktop, and they can draw points of interest they're interested in. So in my glass display, I see a little arrow or icon pointing where they're pointing, or if they're drawing, it leaves an annotation on the panorama. So in that way, we're going beyond just having a simple hangout and sharing a video, but now focusing more on sharing spaces. And of course, the processing power on glass is quite limited. So you can build a panorama, but it's much more difficult to share richer environments. But at the HitLab here, we're extending it further to allow the user to capture not only a panorama of their surroundings, but also a high-resolution 3D model of the environment around them. And we do that by using a depth sensor like the Microsoft Kinect depth sensor. And you can take that in your hand, you can scan that around and build a 3D model of your environment. And then you can share that model with the remote person, just like sharing the immersive panorama. But what this means now is that the remote person isn't just seeing a panorama, they're seeing a complete 3D model of the environment, and they can navigate through that model separate from your point of view. So it takes the level of immersion to the next level again. So those are 3 areas we're doing work in: augmented reality outdoors, gesture interaction, and immersive panoramas and sharing spaces. The last thing I want to talk about is how we're trying to pull them all together. So one of the things that glass allows you to do, as I said before, is to essentially look through the eyes of somebody else. And of course, if you have an open microphone with headphones, you can also hear through the ears of somebody else. So when we started looking at that, we thought about how one of the unique properties of wearable devices like glass is it allows you to share somebody else's perspective. And so what we're trying to do now is develop a new interaction paradigm that's focused on what we call empathic computing. So of course in the real world, we each try and have empathy with each other sometimes. And empathy means, of course, very basically to be able to see with the eyes of another person, or hear what another person's hearing, or even feel what another person's feeling. And so in the last few months, we've been trying to explore how glass or other wearable platforms can be used to as a platform to empathy as well. For a number of years, 15 years, people have been doing research on how computers can recognize emotion. There's research by Rose Picard at the MIT, for example, who's developed a number of systems that recognize when people are happy or sad or angry or feeling stress. And what we'd like to do is go beyond that, and instead of just building systems that allow computers to recognize emotion, what we'd like to do is we would like to develop a computer interface that allows us to share emotion. So when I'm at a rock concert and feeling really happy and dancing in the concert, then I should be able to share that feeling with somebody else. Or when I'm in a museum and feeling very inspired by the artwork, I should be able to share that with somebody else as well. So already with glass and the work we're doing on panoramas, you can already share the space with them, and so we can share what you're feeling. What we're trying to do now is being able to somehow feelings you're feeling as well. And so in that way, use glass as a medium for empathic communication. And by empathic communication, it means that instead of just trying to communicate the voice or the gaze or the gesture of somebody talking to, but also being able to go beyond that and communicate the feelings as well, or the emotions that they're experiencing. So we're starting to do research now with technologies like EMG or EEG or GSR, skin sensing, to be able to measure some of the physiological processes that people are going through, and use that to detect emotion, and then share that feedback back through glass to a remote person. So one of the challenges, of course, is how do you make a remote person feel what you're feeling, or how do you even show to a remote person what you're feeling? And so we're starting to look at how we can use things like music to try and convey emotion, and also visual cues that can convey different levels of emotion as well. But we're really just at the beginning of a long path of research, and it will take many, many years before we get to the point where we can really feel like that we're with somebody and feeling the same things that they're feeling, even though we might be many thousands of kilometers distance. So those are 4 areas of research that we're doing. I wanted to take a break for a second and ask if anybody in the audience has any quick questions, and either about the research we're doing or about in general. I was very lucky about a year ago to go and work for 6 months inside Google as part of the Google Glass team. So I've got a lot of insights in terms of technology and what they're doing and what their future plans are as well. So I'm happy to talk about some of those as much as I can as well. So the floor is yours. Please ask me whatever questions you've got.
Tremendous, Mark. We're just waiting for the microphone to come round. So in the meantime, I might get some people to come up to the mic. Can you hear us okay, Mark?
Oh, I can hear just fine. If people want to ask questions and you just repeat the questions, that's fine as well.
Okay, no, I think people can come up. I wonder if you could just introduce yourself as you come up to ask the question, and Mark will follow up on some of those points that you raised earlier too, because it relates to some of the work we're doing here.
Hello, Mark. My name is David Miller, and my question is, have you considered rendering the information you gather from your three-dimensional look around to known databases? So I already know what a building looks like, perhaps, and I'm matching the image you're seeing to that known place. So you're actually having a learning rendering of your view to a known database. That means I can actually put in a geospatial place, so I know where you're standing, so I know what you should be able to see, so I'm actually confirming where you are. That's so what I'm talking about is adding that look around to known street scenes, known street views.
That's great. Thanks for the question, David. We haven't been doing that ourselves, but I'm aware of other people doing research like that. In the augmented reality field, for example, people oftentimes use that technique for outdoor tracking. So I take a camera to see and extract some data, that to a known database, and then use that to find out my position. So we're not doing that right now, but we'd like to work in that area in the future.
Great, I think there's a follow-up. Yep.
No, it's just that there are a number of known visualizations which we obviously know Google street scenes. There's also other mapping product is immersive, the ability to layer yourself in on that to actually add to the experience.
Yes, you're right. There's a lot of ways you can use known databases. I mean, it's very interesting, for example, to take images from glass and then use that to map to Street View and then to pull out information from geolocated data that's stored as part of Street View. And there's a wide range of ways that could be extended.
Great, thanks, Mark. We've got another question. Ruth?
Hello, Mark. Thank you for your presentation. My name is Ruth. I'm interested in what you spoke about, getting people who are remote to you to connect with what you're feeling in addition to what you're seeing. I'm interested if you can elaborate about the research into incorporating other senses. So you mentioned music briefly, which is obviously incorporating the oral sense, but I know smell is particularly linked to memory and to feeling, and I'm just interested if you could elaborate more on incorporating senses other than just sight.
Great, thanks for the question. So in our lab, we've been mostly focusing on vision and audio feedback. But however, I do have other research groups that have been focusing on other types of feedback. And particularly, one of my colleagues called Adrian Chio at the City University of London has been doing a lot of work with smell. In fact, he's just released a mobile app that goes on your phone with a small smell pod, and it allows you to send remote sensors or remote smells to other people. So it sounds very interesting because it's a very powerful way of avoiding emotions and feeling. You know, when you you smell like your mother's cooking, or the smell of wet grass in a sports field, they can oftentimes bring back emotions and bring back memories to your mind. However, it's also very challenging to deliver a smell on a device. So my friend Adrian has been working on using a mixture of chemicals to try and synthesize different smells. And he's had a reasonable degree of success using about 12 or so different base chemicals to create a wide range of smells. However, what he's discovered is that unlike visual or auditory feedback, which can be digital, smell in some ways is like analog. Once you release the chemical into the atmosphere and create a smell, it's very hard to get rid of the smell very quickly. So of course with glass and other wearable devices, you can put a pixel on the screen and you can make the image come and go maybe 30 frames a second or higher, and that way it's very digital input. With smell though, in contrast, once you've synthesized the smell, it may take minutes or even hours for that smell to go away. So one of the challenges that they're having in the community that's working on smell input is how you can create it's realistic, and then enable it to be delivered and taken away from the environment quickly. One of my other friends, whose name is Ivan Puparev, who works at the Disney Research in Pittsburgh, has been doing some work on electrostimulation. And what he's discovered is that if you pass a very small electric current through people's body, you can help them feel things that aren't really there. So this is another way of stimulating another sense, the sense of touch. So, for example, here's an application demonstration where you can look at a picture and you can run your fingers across the surface of the picture, and as you run the print, you'll feel different texture on different parts of the picture, even though it's just printed on a normal piece of paper. So by tracking where your hand is and then passing a small electric current through your finger, and underneath the picture having electrostatic plates that will cause friction when your fingers move across them, you can create the different feelings like a glass, or feeling of rough sandpaper, or a feeling of marble or stone, or something like that. So it's a very interesting way to create the illusion that you're actually able to feel or create that haptic or tactile sense. However, both of these technologies, like tactile feedback and the smell feedback, are very, very early technologies. They're pretty much where computer graphics were 20 or 30 years ago for audio technology generation. So I think we'll see a lot more coming in that area in the next 10, 20 years' time. And if you're a researcher looking at innovative computer-based technologies, these will be the areas you want to start looking into rather than the well-developed areas of visual and audio feedback.
Thanks, Mark. We've got another question here.
Thank you, Mark. Don Munro, I'm an independent researcher. You mentioned that there was a limitation in the computing power of the glass, and I'm wondering what you would feel about personal web servers that actually have the computing power to back up the glass as the interface, but are still warm, which actually gives you computing power on your belt, as it were, to communicate with other people.
Oh yes, I think that's a very good idea, very interesting idea. So, for example, with the Panorama application I was talking about, it turns out that with glass, it doesn't really have quite enough computing power to stitch together the images you're capturing with your head-mounted camera. So what we're doing is we're sending these images to a server and doing all the remote of glass, and then sending the output back to glass. So I think it's a very interesting idea to have a personal web server on glass or on other wearable devices, and then use that to tap into massive amounts of cloud computing power. And that's a number of ways that we can use to improve the interactive capabilities of glass. So, for example, you could do more accurate speech recognition off glass on the cloud, or you could do computer vision processing, or you could do much more accurate graphics rendering, for example, and then do it to glass. And as long as you have a strong Wi-Fi connection with a very small amount of delay, then the user doesn't really notice whether or not the processing is being done on glass or off glass, a remote
Great, thanks, Mark. Is there another question? No? Mark, I've got a question. I suppose it relates to a little bit of the work we've been doing here at Inspire around augmented reality. And you mentioned a couple of points about the opportunities for sort of a multimodal learning, multimodal engagement. And I just wonder whether you could talk about what connection you see to that multimodal learning and facilitating more metacognitive behaviours, more thinking about the experience, and whether you've had some opportunity to think about that as well.
Sorry, can you repeat that question again?
My question's about the opportunities that glass and augmented reality applications have to engage in more metacognitive behaviours. Behaviours that arise from the frontal lobes around planning, organisation, to get people to think about their thinking, you know, to reflect on what's happened in those experiences, rather than just presenting the environment, but engage in some more complex cognitive activity.
Great, thanks. Well, I've noticed, not with Glass so much, but with other devices I'm using, that once I start tracking my performance, then it provides me with an opportunity to think more about my activities in the real world. So there's a fairly new research field that's been developed that's recently called the quantified human. And the idea basically is that you can use a number of different devices to track activity in the real world. So, for example, I wear a Fitbit device to my number of footsteps I take every day and how much activity I do every day. And so now when I go onto the website, I can look and see if I've been very active or not, and that helps me to reflect and be more aware of the exercise I should be taking. There are other devices such as the narrative clip camera that you can wear around your neck, and that takes pictures every minute of what you're doing every day. And then periodically you go back and recall all those pictures, and those pictures again will help you provide a kind of a metacognition layer of what activities you're doing in the real world. One of the interesting things about Glass is that both the Fitbit and the camera are examples of what could be called life technology. As the technology allows you to log your activity every moment in the day. But these, the Fitbit and narrative clip don't combine much in the way of communication capability. But Glass provides almost the same capabilities. Now with Glass I can also report the distance I'm travelling and how much exercise I'm doing. I can also have software that automatically takes pictures every day. But it also combines it with a computing power and communication power. And so what that means now is that I can use that to provide metacognition by doing context recognition. So, for example, if I go to a location, I may have been there before, and Glass may say, oh, well, you've been to this location before, and last time you were here, this is what you did, and show me some images of what happened last time I was there. Or it may be that when performing another activity, like looking at the car, Glass can look at the images that I'm capturing from the camera, and using cloud computing, use that to connect with somebody else who's performing this activity. So maybe there's a cloud database of people who are performing, who've done car repair in the past. When Glass sees me repairing my car, it compares those images to this other image database and recognizes, oh, you're trying to replace the carburetor on this Honda car, and this other person did that same thing last month. So let me connect you to that person, and then you guys can start working together. So in that way, Glass in some ways becomes a cognitive aid. It can recognize actions you're doing and help you enhance those actions. It can also connect you to people to be able to perform those actions as well. So I think the very exciting thing in terms of metacognition is that with wearable devices, you're not just capturing the user activity, you've got computing and communications capability as well that lets you be able to do much deeper analysis of activity and context-sensitive information recall to support their activity further. But I think we're just starting to educate the service of what's possible with these devices, and so it'll be interesting to see what people develop in the next 5 or 10 years' time.
Fantastic. Thanks, Mark. Are there any other questions at the moment? Mark, I just wondered whether you've got any questions for us as a community that's coming to understand Glass and its applications, and quite a diverse community.
I've just got a couple of questions. One would be, and unfortunately I can't see all of your faces, but I would love to know how many of you would be willing to wear Google Glass today, and if you aren't, why aren't you willing to wear it right now?
We'll just pose that question. How many people would be prepared to wear Glass Ruth put her hand up very, very quickly. Look, we've probably got, say, 20%, 25% of the room that would be prepared to wear glass at the moment.
Okay, so that's 80% or so that aren't wear it. And of course, I've been involved with wearing for a long time. So when I first started doing it, people were wearing backpack computers or fanny pack computers with, with quite ugly devices on their head. But now we've evolved to something which is very small and almost unobtrusive. But still, we have, in the room there, we've still got 80% of people who think this is probably not a device that they wear. So I'm quite curious to what changes would have to be made to the device before it is something that people want to be able to use every day.
Sure. I wonder if anyone's prepared to give a response to that. Yep.
Right, David Miller again. Look, I've had some experience in human factors in aviation with things like heads-up displays, and one of the challenges of them is that they tend to focus attention to the exclusions. So you can actually be looking at the data on the heads-up display and completely miss the other aircraft that flies past your cockpit. The focus and the attention-seeking stimulus of the glass in a broad area of surveillance or looking perhaps like driving or flying can be actually quite detrimental to the task you're doing.
That's an interesting point. Does anybody else have any other thoughts about why you're not willing to wear the device? Is it a social factor where you might feel that you look silly when you're wearing the device, or you want to draw attention to yourself, or you're worried, like you just mentioned, that it's going to be able to draw your attention away from what's happening in the real world?
Yeah, we do have another comment.
Hi, this has been really fantastic. It's been great to listen to you. I think one of the reluctant elements to wearing something like this is obviously privacy and the extent to which the technology pervades the personal over the public and the ethics behind it. I think that's a significant component. I think people tend to miss the fact that Google is actually a company. And it's a competitive company amongst others. And of course, everybody will probably know a lot of the move is about the projection of how the government and ethics conflict in such movies like Minority Report or even 1984 or something along those lines. So the pervasiveness, I think, is a concern. And how that then touches on the ethics of human endeavour and how that relates to the extent to which people's lives are broadcast.
That's a very good point as well. Of course, with cell phone devices and other cameras and recording devices in our environment, it seems like we're getting less and less privacy every day. Maybe a device like glass makes that more bring to the fore than with other devices. But in many ways, glass is one of the worst surveillance devices that you could have. If I'm wearing on my head, everybody knows I've got a camera, a microphone on my head. And then when I start recording, of course, the device lights up and it shows that I'm recording. So it's very, very difficult to be able to have surreptitious surveillance with the device. But I think Google has a long way to go before they can allay people's fears about privacy and about what people might be doing, what people might be doing with the images and the data being captured by the device on the back end.
Thanks, Mark. Just on a personal note, I've been wearing glasses for 40 years. And when I compare the aesthetics of Google Glass to some of the national health glasses I wore 40 years ago, it's a damn fine piece of aesthetic compared to some of those. Yeah, Mark, Ruth's question was, can you place a Google Glass on a prescription set of glasses?
Yes, I mean, I'm wearing frames right now that have prescription lenses in them. So just out of interest, can easily be fitted on a prescription frames.
Okay, so how does that work with multifocals, given that there are different sort of gradients in multifocals? Does that have to be positioned in a particular location?
I'm not sure. I don't wear bifocal displays, but I imagine so. Yes, I imagine you have to be able to have the more bifocal with the lead with a more corrective lens at the bottom, and then with the glass display itself, add a second lens.
Fantastic. Sorry, this one on Alison. Yep.
Hi, Mark. My name's Alison. I'm one of the people who didn't put my hand up. And one of the reasons is that I doubt my capacity to be able to be present in a conversation with someone while I've got something else happening on a screen, which was my experience when I tried Google Glass out. And I was interested, my comment, I guess, is also reflecting back some of your earlier remarks about how you feel that it adds a new dimension to collaboration. I guess there's one thing to be said when you're trying to collaborate with a group of people and people are either looking at their phone, checking their messages. It's quite clear that they're not necessarily tuned in. Whereas with Google Glass, it's actually much more difficult to see when people have tuned out. How have you found that in some of your work around collaboration? People's attention or people not being present for what's actually going on in front of them?
That's a really good point. And so first of all, when Google designed Google Glass, one of their overriding design objectives was to build technology that enhanced your interaction with the real world and not detract you from it. Oftentimes with Glass, they talk about how it's a look-up rather than look-down technology. So you can, if you go to a concert now, oftentimes, or an event, if you look around the crowd, oftentimes many people with their mobile devices, like their phones or tablets, looking down, and sometimes even videoing the very concert they're in right now. So they're seeing the concert through the screen of their device, and they're oblivious to what's going around in the real world sometimes. Whereas with Glass, the metaphor is look up, and you should have to see the real world with your natural eyes, and then just have this small piece of information enhanced on top of it with Glass. However, one of the challenges with developing interfaces and applications for Glass is to make sure the application gets out of the way when you don't want it and don't need it. So attention is a very scarce resource, especially when people are interacting with tasks in the real world. And when you're developing a wearable or mobile application, you want to make sure that it doesn't take more attention than is needed, and doesn't start distracting from interaction in the real world. In the context of collaboration in particular, I've noticed several things. So first of all, sometimes when you're in conversation with somebody when they're wearing Glass, you can easily tell when they're not present or not. If they start looking up to the right and they start looking at an email or a message, it's very obvious they're not present with you in the conversation. However, in some of the work we've done in the past, not with Glass, but with other displays, we've been able to create interfaces where people can sit around the same table in the real world, and they can see virtual content put into a common shared task and communication space. So unlike some other collaborative systems where you're looking at a physical space, you're not able to see the natural communication cues that are around you, the non-verbal or digital cues. By using augmented reality in a face-to-face collaborative setting, you can see the virtual content placed in the real world and you can interact with your natural gesture, and so you can see natural body motion. You can collaborate in a face-to-face way. So with Glass and with other wearable devices, you've both got the potential to detract from the conversation you're having, but you also have the potential to use technology in a way that enhances collaboration as well. And so it's up to the developers to be able to develop great interfaces that support collaborative interfaces that enhance rather than detract from collaboration. And don't demand too much of your attention. But I think we've still got a long way to go. People are used to now developing interfaces with desktop computers, mobile computers. It's a very new field to start building interfaces for wearable computers. And so there's still a lot of user interface guidelines that need to be learned. And that's one of the things that we try and do at the Lab New Zealand is we actually run classes that teach people how to user interfaces with devices like Google Glass, and we're hoping to educate developers to be able to create a generation of wearable experiences.
Fantastic. Mark, I think we need to draw to a close. Fascinating presentation. Really appreciate the opportunity to have a conversation with you. And I know I've been particularly taken with the work and approach of your group in terms of your willingness to share, the openness of that work. And I think as a sort of a community coming to understand some of the implications of glass and the applications, that's something that's very well regarded. I wonder if you could join with me to thank Mark tonight. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you very much. And I should just mention before we go that if anybody has any other questions, please feel free to email me. And we have a website also, AR for Glass, which has many of the material on that I've been talking about. You can watch some of the videos we're working on, or download some of the material that we've got in terms of teaching people how to build glass interfaces. But thank you very much for the time, and please enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thanks very much, Mark. Thank you again. Folks, we're going to take a break for about 10 minutes.
Yeah, 10 minutes.
About 10 minutes, and then we're going to assemble back in this main space for our plenary speaker, and then our close. So thanks again.
Hopefully I've got enough. You can mute anyone.
So this is actually hooked up. So when I actually hit go, I'm actually going to be broadcasting this into the Twitter sphere. So on that note, I'm going to... also, the great thing about doing it from a plenary speaker's perspective is as I start checking my notes, you'll see me checking my notes. Sure. So this also could be very bad depending on how you want to look at it. All right, so I'm just going to go through and go live. You all have about 8 seconds to be pretty. Get your makeup, get your hair done.
I might move, actually.
And so what's going to be happening now is you're seeing exactly what I'm seeing. So, and currently on live stream, for those who are saying, can I twist it? Sadly, the limitation of the AirPlay software is that we're stuck in that orientation. Luckily for you, you can see me. You don't need to look at that to see me, to see you doing what we're about. You know what I mean. All right. Look, I've got the wonderful opportunity of giving the closing plenary. It was mentioned I work for a company called Instruction, make a product called Canvas. I'm not here to even talk about product or the issue. The only reason I'm wearing this shirt is because it's my favourite shirt at the moment. Teach long and prosper. My background was as an educator in K-12. I have the dream job at the moment of looking through and evaluating emerging technologies, emerging pedagogies, and seeing how that fits into the online space. My wonderful job is to summarise, simply put, a simple plenary called what, where's it going, and what's next, which is very simple to sum up in a whole 20 minutes. So what I'm going to do first of all is talk about a few key points about this device. So if I can get whoever is looking at my slides, is my slides going? I have a whole bunch of slides. Oh, look, I can see my Twitter popping up. Now, I want to point out what you're seeing there, what I'm seeing here. The people are starting to tweet, but I still have no slides.
Come in.
All right. Look, the first thing I want to talk about is what is this device? Look, you're all here at a glass meetup. I'm assuming you know what this is. But the first question for us, and I do promise not to give you any answers, by the way. The first question you have is this thing just the sum of its parts? Now, if we talk about what we mean by the sum of its parts, what you're looking at here, technologically, is actually not that different from a mobile phone. It's a miniaturized version. And again, many people speak from the glass community will hate when you say that. If I can skip to the next slide. If you actually look at what glass is made up of, it's the same kind of components you find in a mobile device. We have a GPS. We have a camera. We have a speaker, although again, I was keen to highlight that you're not seeing anything like ears here. The speaker is actually a bone conducting, which gives you fantastic audio, even in busy spaces like this. We've got 7 people doing it. I keep being pinged with alerts. We have a camera, not just on the face of the front, which everybody talks about, and all the discussions around the privacy which I'm going to talk about, but also one point to the inside. As a device, I've strapped a phone to my head. But the reality is that's actually the exact opposite as well. Because this is not a phone strapped to my head. It's here, it's actually part of my periphery vision. It's something I can access without having to hold the phone up. It's something that also generates fear by the fact that if I hadn't told you I'm going to be recording and broadcasting this plenary, could there be a fear associated with I'm not going to be broadcasting everything? And part of the answer to this is actually coming down to lack of knowledge. There is discussions already happening in Australia. Should we allow Google Glass? Should we ban Google Glass? Is this the devil or is this the saviour of the communication space? Is this a step towards singularity or is it a step back into the dark ages of social? We don't know. And that's actually what excites me so much about what's going on. All right, let's go to the next slide. The first thing I want to talk about is what is innovation. Something that I believe strongly, in fact I happily see in the company I'm with, one of the reasons I joined them, is we believe strongly in disruption. And I love that word disruption. And this is a slide. That deviation from the norm, progress is not possible. Frank Zappa is a guru of his generation. Disruption is a process of change. Through only change do we get it. So through only process of disruption, I should say, do we start to see true innovation happening. That Google, one of the founders from Google, I can't remember if it was Sergey or the other one. Now, does anybody ever remembers the second one? But who said that it's very easy to do what we did yesterday. Coming up with what we're going to do tomorrow is far more difficult but far more satisfying. I paraphrase that horribly, but that's one of the gists of what this device is about. One thing I'll talk about the disruption, it's great hearing these kids talking. If you missed out on the session with the kids from Canberra Grammar, I don't want to offend any of the other speakers, I'm sure you're brilliant, but you can't have been this good. Talking about the elements of privacy. Talking about the world that they're growing up in. Again, I'm sorry I didn't get all your names. One of the boys mentioned this thing that we grow up in a society now where everything we do is recorded.
from walking down the street to drawing money from an ATM to playing a game at a video parlour to sitting and playing World of Warcraft to using a glass. We live in a society now, a generation where everything we do is recorded. Yet there's this huge focus that this particular tool is going to be the end of civilization. Is that the case? Again, I'm not promising you any answers. I think it's an interesting discussion point. My personal view is that privacy is an illusion. It always has been. Let's go back 40, 50, 60 odd years. Invention of the telephone. In the US, it used to call 699. This would put you through to an operator who would sit there with all her cables and a switchboard and go, hello, who do you want to speak to? Oh, you're after Mrs. James. She'd plug you in and listen to your phone call for the next half hour. That's not a joke. This is how technology works. But yet, again, at that point, we had a fear of, well, discussions, these operators listening to our calls. Didn't stop the technology from evolving, we continued. That's all right, we're going to start digitising it. That's right, we can still listen to phone calls. Hello, thank you for calling the Commonwealth Bank. This call is being recorded for customer service purposes. You know, we hear this already. Oh, we go a step further. You know, thanks to only recent leaks, we now know that the NSA was, oh, not listening into calls, we're just collecting the metadata of who you're speaking to, what you said, and where you're going. It's not a big deal. I mention these 3 points because all these things are actually the same problem. Privacy is an illusion. It's actually how we control it, how we moderate it, how we legislate around it. And again, that's the discussion that's starting to happen at the moment. Let's go to the next slide. So what is this fear? Again, another sage of its time. C3PO. Answer if you're never going to trust a strange computer. This device is fantastic because of its power, but the power is not built into the hardware. For those of you who aren't aware, this device allows me to do searching. I can do translation. I can go and watch a video. I can look up information on flight times. For those of you who came around to me doing demos during the break, I asked it to look at QX7, and it knew where I was, where the flight was, how far away it was, and it was on time, and it's actually due in 4 more hours. It's all this quick access to information. But all that's not happening is device because it's going to be sent to the cloud, to Google servers. So first of all, that language goes to the voice recognition. This doesn't have the power to do that. So I talk. It's sent to Google servers where it's translated. Information is sourced and sent back. That information is first of all cached for performance reasons. This just takes security out of the equation. But it is cached. It's being stored online. Do I trust Google, the company of said quote, do no evil as a motto? Well, again, that's an interesting question. And even if we do, yes, I trust Google implicitly with all my data. Do I trust the government organisations and non-government organisations who might hack into that system to access my data? Right now, when I put this on, it takes a photo of my face. That's sent to Google. And as I'm doing searches, that information is being sent to Google on the GPS coordinates of where I am. Not in any kind of illicit or negative subverse tone. It's just that it needs it to do that, to answer the questions that I'm giving it. But that information is all being stored. What's the potential of that? Let's go to the next slide. So let's come through to talk actually about the fear aspect. It's very easy when you hear statements like I just gave you to think about the fear. And Isaac Asimov, who, again, for those who aren't aware, is a science fiction writer, way ahead of his time. This is the gentleman who invented the term robotics. All right, so he invented robots way before they were real. I always tell my wife I live in the future. I have a computer on my face, I've got a robot that cleans my floors. I've got a car that speaks to me. You know, I'm waiting for the George Jetson hovering car and I'll be happy. So this quote here, it really stuck with me. I discovered to my amazement that all through history there's been resistance and bitter, exaggerated, last-stitch resistance to every significant technological change that's taken place on Earth. Usually the resistance came from those groups who stood to lose influence, status, money as a result of the change. Although they never advanced this as their reason for resisting, it will be always the good of humanity that rested upon their heads. This quote, I use this often in various different plenaries that I get because it's really stayed with me. We fear that which we can't control. Well, who controls the information flow here? Who controls where this information is going? Lots of the fear around glass is unfounded. Oh, you could be recording me I'm sure you've all heard the term glass hole. Oh, there's this glass hole out there. He went to the bar and he's recording everything. Case in point. If I started recording, which I actually did earlier on this evening, I recorded and live streamed the intro. The battery gets sucked up like nothing else. If this thing lasts 20 minutes, the reason I'm standing here with a very sexy dangling cord is that live streaming this device would have died about 5 minutes ago. The reality of the technology is not where the theory is sitting. Okay, you could be taking photos of me surreptitiously. I'm so tense. We've been doing this with mobile phones for the past 5 bleeding years. But let's take a step further. I can be doing it surreptitiously. There are 3 ways to take a photo on glass. I can do this. In fact, we call it the Google zombie death stare. We kind of look up to the right. But you see me doing this. Okay, so that's not being subversive. I can go, okay, glass, take a photo, which again in a loud environment is kind of obvious. Or my favourite and the most subversive of all ones is I can do this. And it's amazing. Oh, error while streaming, that's not fair. Come on, don't, oh, let's try to take a photo. Damn it! I probably just killed my own stream taking a photo. Google, okay,
that's really beautiful.
No, so again, the reality of the device versus the fear of its potential use do not match up. One of my personal thoughts, again, I keep saying personal thoughts, these are my views by looking at what's happening in the community, what's happening with those using glass, is that Google are not doing a good job with their PR campaign. Those of you who work in government, we know that spin is everything. And I'm going to be that negative. Spin is everything. Google aren't spinning well. They're making this a desired device. Those who didn't know, do you know where Google Glass had its first big launch? New York Fashion Show. This is a fashion device. This is something that you want to have. The Google Glass Explorer program, best marketing ever. Yes, we're going to launch a hashtag. You're going to tell us why you want glass in 100 words or 100 characters or less. And if you're accepted, we will send you an invoice, $1,500. And do you know what? People do it and they do it again. But they made it so keen on being this fantastic wanted device. They've actually forgotten to clear up what it does and how it works. And that in itself creates the fear around its potential use. So again, I don't have an answer, but I just want to make this point so that you kind of think about where that leads. So we go to the next slide. Now David Warlick, now I've kind of gone beyond my humour. David Warlick is an educator, very well known. Very well known in the online learning space. And again, I should mention that's my background. I'm a K-12 educator. I'm a passionate e-learning EdTech user. We need technology in every classroom and in every student and teacher's hand because it's the pen and paper of our time. And it is through this lens which we experience much of our world. Let's not move out of the subjective and the roundabout comment, things that I love about this device. This device is fantastic in education. Feared, but brilliant. We have a large amount of our population who are experiential learners. Great, I can go out. In fact, there's a fantastic teacher, he actually met as part of what they call the Google Explorer program. I keep looking up his name, Andrew Hewell, who's actually invited to be part of the program, paid us $1,500. He got some special treatment being an educator. He got to go to CERN in Switzerland. Now, he could not take his entire class with him to Switzerland, because apparently Google don't have that much money. I don't know if I believe them. Either that or we just ship them in a big container ship that's in the Bay of San Francisco and send them off. But no, he got to go. And so he had his glass. And he set up a Google Hangout. And as he is walking through CERN, his students back in Massachusetts are able to see and ask questions and get immediate feedback to get his experience live broadcast into their classroom where they can experience this firsthand. POV. Take this a step further. Maybe it's not synchronous. What about asynchronous? There's a fantastic little Easter egg. For those of you who are Google Glass Explorers may not know this. If you go to the license section and scroll through all the licenses, and there's a lot, you get to the end, there's a little Easter egg. It's actually a photo of the entire Google Glass development team. That's a panorama. So as I see it up in my glass and I turn around, I can go through and see each member of the team as if they're standing around me. Now take this into a real world example. Now, right, we have all these photos of Pompeii, of trenches of World War I, you know, modern day obviously, we can't go back in time, people haven't invented that yet. But I can go through and set up all these things that I can actually experience it as if I was there. This device can potentially change the world. This is my biggest challenge. I constantly, hello, how are you? Talk about how technology can change things. Has anybody seen the Doubles before? Amazing piece of tech. Say hello, Double.
Oh, hello, everybody.
Telepresence. You've thrown me off my kilter now. Get out, damn boss! Aha, see what I did there? Now, the point I was going to make was, what was I going to make? It must have been a really important point. No, I took the importance of experiential learning now. This here has potential of literally changing the face of what we're doing. And the reason I bring up that board's quite is because this is just new technology. That's where I was going. My personal challenge is, as an educator, I hate when we put tools first. Pedagogy should lead to the tools that I want to use. Now, that tool could be an axe, a pen, a whiteboard, a Google Glass, a computer, a tablet, a smartphone. And the pedagogy should lead the way. I really want to do X. What this device has done is actually completely shifted me. And I struggle with this because I'm actually now breaking my own rule. I want to find ways to bring this into the classroom. This has opened up new things that I could never have dreamt of doing 6 months ago. And for those of you who get to start playing with, you start to realise the power. And I'm just thinking from an educator's perspective, let's talk about the potential of the classroom. And again, I promise, this isn't a sales skill. I actually like talking about it. Instruction actually had a couple of these. We've started experimenting now. Now, Canvas, those who aren't aware, is a learning management system. If you've seen Moodle or Blackboard, these guys are the new kids on the block trying to do something innovative there. And we started thinking about, what can we actually do with a glass? Imagine a world where every student had these. Again, I apologise I didn't get your names earlier, but a fantastic point was also made that, is this a disruptive device in a classroom? No? Yes? Maybe. In fact, it's just as disruptive as my phone. I could sit there and play games. Oh, gee, I opened up Sugar Rush. I could get diverted by looking up random things. I watched a YouTube video. Oh, look, 5 ads. Oh, new Colin McRae. At the same point, I'd be just as easily distracted by the window that I stare aimlessly out as my teacher reads the 15 slide verbatim. These are all the same things. And by the way, how do we fix this classroom management? Can I tell if the student's not paying attention? Yes. Google zombie stare. Can I go through it and use it without my knowledge? Okay, Glass, take a photo. You're hearing me talk. By the way, smile over there. It's still going to be abused or used, and we have to trust our children to use it. This here is a cultural shift of 5 years in education. 5 years ago, all phones are banned from our classroom. About 4 years ago, bring it but hand them in at the door. About 3 years ago, it's all right, you can use it during breaks, you've got it for emergencies, but that's about it. 2 years ago, yes, you can use it, but keep it on silent in the classroom. If you use it, we're going to go through and take it off you. Last year, in all the Beaches Christian schools, you got a phone. Fantastic. Look, make sure you go to our Flickr group. If you want to post, this is our hashtag, this is our Twitter account. We're going on this excursion, we're going on this field trip. Okay, go through, take photos, that's all hashtagged here, we can get back to the class, we can use it. This now is being embedded into our curriculum as a teaching device equal in level to ones owned by the teacher. That's been nearly 8 years in progress. How long is this going to take? Again, I don't have the answer. Go to the next slide. So how does this all start to happen? Let's go to another famous person. Those who've changed the universe have never done it by changing officials. It's always been done by inspiring the people. This is something that this device is starting to do in a way that no other device in EdTech has that I'm aware of. Every educator who has picked up a glass, who has used a glass, and I put myself in this mix, all of a sudden the fear has disappeared, literally usually the first 10 minutes. The potential of this tool has become what I've been literally dreaming about for the last week. And look at the Google Glass community, you'll find numerous people out there. The people with the fear at the moment are typically those who are the uninformed, those who aren't at the coalface, those who focus on the what ifs. And it's a fair point, I don't want to sound too rosy-eyed or blasé. Is what if an important question? Yes. If I'm dealing with K-12, these are students that are my wards, that are under 18. Absolutely, it's an important question. In the university sector, privacy. Yes, very big questions, big discussions to have. But is it worth removing something because the fear of the few? what could actually be the benefit of the many. I was going to use a Star Trek quote, but I thought it's probably not the best audience for it. But this is the world we're starting to move into. Now, I want to highlight my point 15 minutes ago. This is no different to my telephone exchange operator. This is no different to the guy at the Kodak shop who used to sit there, get my roll of film. Sorry guys, there's a thing this year called a camera. You get a thing called film, you put it in, it had about 32 shots. It's quite an incredible piece of technology. And do you know what's even better? So you guys just stay with me. You take it to a shop where they would get this film, put it in the machine, and as it printed out, it was done in the window, so the entire public walking past could see all your photos on display. And as a kid, I'd wait there until the kind of photos would pop up. Do you guys remember this though? I make light of it. Privacy is an illusion. 20 years ago, 10 years ago, we were doing this stuff in public, but we became acclimatized to it. We become normalized to it. The only difference now between them is that the rate of change has significantly increased. The question we're asking, I like on the Twitter sphere. Sorry, you're getting all my contacts coming up now. I like talking about the Twitter sphere, that the debate around privacy and tool use and raising education quite literally since the beginning of education. Anything now is trying to keep up with the flow. Next slide. So that's it. What I hope you guys have gained from it. How much time do I have, by the way? Normally I speak over. I think I'm actually on time.
Keep going.
So for those of you who actually know me from my previous speaking gigs, I'm pumping a marina in the corner there. I'm incapable of keeping time. The challenges of the world that we live in, the challenge this brings, and again, I'm really hoping you guys listen to these sessions. The talk from healthcare was fantastic. We talk about how can this change the future of healthcare. Well, healthcare we do a lot of work in simulation. Well, isn't it great that a student can sit here with a glass on and actually sit with an actor and talk about, you've got terminal cancer, and be able to actually record it through not just my eyes and see how they respond, to be able to review my practice, but have a glass on the actor's eyes so that I can watch afterwards and see when they were looking away from me, what I was doing right, what I was doing wrong. What about if and these are all examples, by the way, of real glasses. There's a lady who's a conductor in a university in the US, who I'm afraid to say my iPad's gone flat, so I can't give you her name. And she actually does conducting at one of these universities. And she's doing two things, just for herself and for the university. Every time their symphonies, their ensembles, their quartets play, they have a screen like this up. And she has glass, and we get to see the orchestra from her perspective as she's conducting, as she's getting those people and bringing them down. And she can hear the music and see from the conductor's point of view. From a teaching perspective, she gets to actually sit there with the students. Now, conducting is a very practical exercise. The students have to be able to walk up and help them and control that, and record the video so that when the student is finished, she can send them straight from this device an email of their performance that they can now go through and evaluate. We can actually use these devices. I can ramble on, I've only got 2 minutes left. So let me just try and come back to a point. For those of you who have ever studied society and culture, it's a subject I used to teach. We talked about a very important diagram that I don't have a slide of. It's called PSCET. PSCET are all the things that control our society. People, society, culture, environment, and time. Why do I bring this up? Technological advances like glass or like the internet or like the first personal computer or like the calculator are impacted by each of these 5 areas. People use the technology. People get together and form societies. That society has a culture that forms around it. That culture is impacted by the environment within which it sits, and that all changes over time. And no one of those elements has any big impact on the other. Devices like this fracture that incredibly. Are you guys aware of me when I mentioned the word singularity? We talk about the singularity that's approaching, the meld of technology and human will, right? Mm-hmm. This device is getting us there. Now, I'm not trying to say Google Glass is going to be a moment of singularity. In fact, quite the opposite. But devices like this that bring us there closer and closer, and how people react to it, how society is going to form around it, what happens to the cultures that use it. I was actually just doing some talk very briefly, and I was saying, what about Indigenous community? I think, well, Indigenous community, experiential learners, learning through stories. It's fantastic to record and use that. At the same point, we have the other issue of culture, where if I'm recording someone's face, that image is being captured. Am I taking part of their entity? So the culture has to react to it. And in Australia, and predominantly the US, we're seeing a culture of fear around security and privacy. Do I believe that will be climbed? Yes. Do I believe this device has a strong future? Absolutely. Do I believe that this should be used in education? Resoundingly. But the discussions that hopefully you guys have heard today, that start today, will hopefully continue in your personal learning networks, in your workplaces, are really what's going to shape the future of this. I guess that's the point I wanted to make. So thank you for listening to the ramble. I hope it gave you some thoughts, ideas to gel on. I do want to say that I'm not going to be disappearing right away. I'm going to come down and have a play with this. I will have to highlight, I won't put out his name, but one gentleman went, "Okay, Glass, Google pictures of pretty ladies." Please do not do that search on this Glass. It's going against my history. It's all being collected by Google, so let's be good. But if you want to come down, have a play, experience this, see what I'm talking about, I'm going to be down the front here, and I'm happy to do so. In the meantime, thank you for coming. I don't want to take the clothes away from these guys, but I really want you to realise that this is the beginning of the discussions. The first class meetup in Australia I'm aware of, and hopefully not the last. And it's the thoughts that you have and the things that you take back to your institutions that will make the difference. If you haven't done so already and you're thinking about it, get your hands on one. Change misconceptions, get practical experience, the best thing I can recommend it. Thank you very much for your time. I'll hand over to others.
It was me. I said, search for pretty ladies, open 1,000 tabs. Why now? Let's go to the next part of this program. This program is, as Julian said, probably a bit of a watershed in that it's bringing together many different sectors into the one room. There's not a higher education mandate and a single entity here, there are many. I'd like to acknowledge the people who have played a part in that picture. To David Caldecott and his team, thank you for inspiring us with your perceptions as to how this technology may impact upon medical simulation and resuscitation, which we all may need post this event. Thank you for the support of Mick Wyther and the LNet community, who are a virtual node to this community, and their 1,000 or so people who are viewing this live at this very moment, for promoting and sustaining this event through a webinar series that will follow this event. Of the highest accord and the deepest of our gratitude to Cecilia Abadai and Noble Ackerson from Linksfit, and for all of the Glass Explorer contacts and communications and generosity of spirit that they afforded us in setting this up. Without Cecilia particularly, this event would not have happened. Dan Anson and his Google Glass Pioneer team, who've been very generous in their time and connections as part of the Glass interviews, which the Inspire Centre are very appreciative of. The Inspire Centre have 50 recorded half-hour interviews that I conducted that you can access through YouTube, where I asked 10 hard questions of Google Glass Explorers across their community. To Kathy Reed and the team at APHS, who did a wonderful impromptu job of hosting two surgeons who were incredibly lacking in sleep at 4:30 in the morning. That's really incredible. We're intrigued to know where you'll take this with your company. And for aged care in Australasia across the future. Thank you sincerely for flying down to Canberra to join us and for tweeting across your network about this event. Sincerely, thank you. To Virginia Poltrack, John O, the GPOP team, and David, who appeared tonight. Fantastic interaction with the students, and I'm sure that you'll be getting their decals on your gear as well. Thank you for your creative vision and affirmations in this space. To Greg Maltz and the ongoing development of telepathy. We're looking at you, looking at us, and hoping that the two-finger swipes and the winks will be a thing of the past when your innovation begins to fly. Essentially, he has developed a way to steer that interaction simply with your eyeball. Without a doubt, one of the highlights of this event is having on board our co-facilitator Matthew Purcell and his team from Canberra Grammar and his team of students. It really is a highlight because you are the engineers of our future and of many other people's futures. It's in your hands as to where we go. With the generosity of the team at Orthopaedic Associates at Southwest Ohio, we have Dr. David Martineau and Dr. Safet Patek, who joined us for our focus on glass across medical and healthcare pro. First person responders. And also thank you to Jeff LaBelle at EdTech Talk and a 27,000 strong online community watching this, connected to this event. A huge thank you to Dan Stevens at Webheads International for his work in also establishing a virtual node for those across a huge online, diverse and culturally rich community. And there are actually many tens of thousands of ESL trainers and teachers alike that will be, I'm sure, inspired by Julian's words. Coming home locally, a big thank you to Canberra Live, who promoted this event across their media channels. Yes, it happened on May 12, not May 7. And last but not least, to the many, many hundreds of glass explorers, and I'm not over exaggerating that, who are likely to interact with these resources in the future. We hope and know that you will support and usher in a truly human-to-human community across Australasia. And in time, we hope and understand the importance of the roles that you have as the original glass explorers in informing where we are heading with that direction. Thank you, and we welcome you and connect with you online. And Robert, if you could please give us a bit of a rundown on where we're heading to the camera. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. Folks, I've got quite a simple task to sort of bring this to a close. It's been an incredible night, and we're very appreciative of everyone's contribution and involvement. Here at Inspire, we're engaged in a range of projects. We've been looking at augmented reality, the design of new learning spaces, Julian talking about the role of technology in education, the promise of technology, which in education has been there for 25 years and we haven't quite seen that promise to be delivered, the role of evidence, of data, of sharing stories and knowledge. And we also see a lot of hype as well around technologies. Amara's law says we tend to overestimate the effect of technology in the short run and underestimate the effect in the long run. Perhaps with glass we might see a change in that. I think there are some, both in terms of watershed moments for the group that got together today, and I think we need to think more carefully about that. None of us with technology want to be less human. I think this is about being more human. Brian Mazzumi talks about this notion of being realer than real and the opportunities that technology have to connect us in different ways. In the ICT for development area, where we do some work in developing countries, a leading researcher, John Donor, talks about the need to look beyond the technology. Julian, you've mentioned the importance and significance of this technology. Absolutely, I agree with you, but I think we also need to focus on what's happening around it. And he describes this process of disaggregating the artifact. Look around, within, between what happens with technologies. This was a meetup. We'd love you to think about the takeaways for you, the one or two things that you've learnt, perhaps more, the one or two questions that you might have, and probably most importantly, the people that you've met tonight. We're appreciative of your involvement. I'd like to particularly thank the Inspire team, Matt, Lee and Alex. You may not know, I've been away in Pakistan for the last 2 weeks, somewhat remotely involved, but Alex, Matt and Lee have really taken the running on this. They've been ably supported by a very extensive network, but I wonder if you could just join with me to thank them as well. Finally, we invite you to our next event. This was always to be a conversation. There are no answers as such. We're interested in the questions. We talk a lot about Inspire, that we try and be as agnostic as we can around product. We talk about Inspire as a neutral meeting place. But one thing we're not agnostic about is around process, around people, around interaction, around asking questions, and I suppose building that notion of teamwork. So I want to thank you for being part of it, and as a networking community, I think we can learn a lot together. I wonder if we can make a special thank you for the folks from Canberra Grammar. As Julian and Alex have said, you guys are the future, and we're very keen to be involved with your school and also the broader school community as well. So thank you. Finally, let's draw this to a close. We look forward to seeing you at our next event. Thanks again.
Thank you.